Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's breakdown of TCU and Michigan, where I had to enlighten Aaron Murray about the cultural and philosophical revolution that has taken place with Big Blue and why that's going to lead to a dominant Michigan win. Today, I will attempt to do the same as we break down the second leg of the college football playoff, the big boy, probably the sexiest 1-4 matchup we've ever seen with the UGA Bulldogs and the Ohio State Buckeyes. This is Snap's new favorite college football podcast here on the Volume Sports Podcast Network and YouTube channel. I'm one of your hosts, T-Bob Hebert, joined as always by the beautiful, hardworking, calling multiple games over the Christmas break, our guy, Aaron Murray. Aaron, what's up, man? How you doing?
Just getting ready day by day for this weekend, man. I think overall, this has been, you talk about sexiest matchup, 1 Georgia versus 4 Ohio State. I think this overall year has been really good for college football. We haven't really had, and I think you think that there's 2 elite teams, and I think that you could maybe make the case that Georgia and Michigan will probably face each other in the national championship, and those guys will be, they are the best 2 teams in the country, and there's no one close. I disagree with that. I do think there's a lot of really good football teams this year. Maybe it's not as quote unquote elite of a season as we're used to seeing, but I think this 1 through 4 matchup is as fair as we've ever seen. And I think that there's a legitimate case. I made it yesterday that TCU can beat Michigan. I still think that they will win that football game. And I think there's a lot of people, and I thought for the majority of the season, I honestly thought Ohio State was the best team in America because there was a belief that their defense had improved from last year, that CJ Stroud was a Heisman type quarterback, a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. You got Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to get back healthy and he's going to play in the football games. Like all those factors, I'm like, man, this is the best team possibly in America. And they kind of backdoor their way into the playoffs. They're number 4, but I think right now, a lot of people feel good that we could possibly see 2 upsets this weekend. And that's why you have a playoff format. And that's why there was this big push to go from 4 to 12. Because the thought of creating more equality across college football to giving teams from different conferences opportunity to play in the playoffs and who knows what could happen in a 1-game season. So I'm loving this season. I've loved the entire year. I think it's been a fascinating season to watch and to cover here on Snaps. I think this is going to be a really fun weekend to watch when it comes to these 2 playoff games, and we'll see what happens. But just looking forward to it.
So, I mean, look, I think you created the. I think you created the expanded playoff less because all teams are equal, but more because you needed to manufacture some good games because traditionally in college football, you do have a couple of teams that tend to separate from the pack. And I think that's what you're seeing again here. Here's my deal with Ohio State. Fool me once, Aaron, shame on you.
Mm-hmm.
Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, and I wish I had read the rest of the J. Cole lyric that I was trying to quote because I cannot remember it. But the point is, you're not going to fool me a 3rd time, Aaron Murray, okay? You got me T-Bob. 2 years ago at Ohio State. You got me last year, Ohio State. You got me again this year, Ohio State. And even though Michigan just kicked the crap out of this team a couple of weeks ago, they done fooled you again, Aaron. They done fooled you. It's just like Texas. When you kept going back to old.
First off, who said I thought Ohio State was going to win this game?
I'm just saying they don't have a. No, Georgia's going to cover. It's not even going to be a good game.
I agree with that. I said it yesterday on the show. I said
okay.
I'm just saying there's a lot of people that believe. I will say it with my chest. I didn't say I believe. I said there's a lot of people out there that believe that this year's. All I'm saying is a bigger picture, T-Bob. I have not had the opportunity to really dive in with my thought of this game. I'm just going big picture here, that this is a really sexy playoff. You said it too. This is a really sexy matchup. And a lot of people are excited. And there's a lot of people that think that you could possibly see 2 upsets. I literally said it on yesterday's show that if I had to pick one of these 2 games where the favorite was going to cover, it was going to be Georgia covering. And I even set you a bet 2 days ago with some money saying Georgia's going to cover this game. So I did put my money where my mouth is. I already put money on Georgia to cover the 6.5 points.
Well, the other bet you made didn't go too well. Maybe you should have watched a little more film. Okay.
We don't talk about that one.
Behooved you a little bit. No, okay. Look, I guess my overall point is, me personally, Yes, well, it is very sexy, and I'm really excited to talk about some of the numbers in this matchup. I'm not giving any benefit of the doubt to Ohio State here, because every time they've been on this stage recently, we have seen what happened. And you thought they got out toughed by Michigan, who is objectively less talented than Ohio State is. Well, what happens to a Georgia when you have Georgia, who is as tough as Michigan and as talented as Ohio State? I think it spells disaster for the Buckeyes. This is pretty awesome, though, Aaron. If you look since 2017, no FBS team in the country has scored more points or touchdowns than have the Ohio State Buckeyes. Over that same span, no FBS team in the country has allowed fewer points or touchdowns than the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, that is the ultimate unstoppable force, immovable object. Aaron, who do you think wins that specific matchup between the two teams?
I mean, this is there's a lot of Georgia fans, and I had the same belief when the matchup was said of like, why this isn't fair? Like, why isn't Georgia facing TCU? Like, the thought is, TCU is the easier matchup between the two, and that's obviously that's not how it works. At the end of the day, TCU deserved to be 3. I don't think that any people can really disagree with that. You may want to face TCU over Ohio State. You may think that's a better matchup for Georgia, and I would agree with you that possibly is a better matchup. But that's not the way it is. TCU had a great year. They made it to the conference championship game. They lost in overtime to Kansas State. They deserve to be 3. Ohio State sat at home. They just got essentially punished the week before versus Michigan. They should be lucky to be in it. A lot of things had to happen right for Ohio State to get in there. Obviously Tennessee had to lose to South Carolina. Clemson, I still think if Clemson would have beat South Carolina and won the ACC, Clemson probably would have been there as a 1-loss ACC champion.
Yeah.
So they needed a lot of that just to be able to get that number 4 spot. So this is the way it should be. And it sucks because of what they do. You said the points, the type of offense they run, and you look at what has given Georgia issues this entire season and even last year. And there's not a lot. Like this is really nitpicking. Like, this is really getting into the weeds here. But when Georgia has had some difficulties on defense, it's been against those offenses that can throw the football. It's the offenses that have a quarterback that can push the ball vertically down the field, where you get some one-on-ones. Georgia loves to trust their corners, and I would too, from last year to Keeley, and they got some great safeties on the back end when they do play a little bit more coverage. But there's going to be plenty of one-on-one opportunities for Ohio State to take some chances. Last year versus Alabama, they took advantage of those SEC championship game, ended up winning. I think the moment was a little bit too big for Georgia. I think they were kind of a little bit too out of place at times. They made some corrections, ended up winning the national championship game, but still Alabama had some success throwing the football before their top receiver went out. This year versus Tennessee, they played great, played tremendous. There were opportunities that Hendon Hooker missed down the field that may have made that game a little bit different. Georgia probably still would have won, but would have been a little bit different. An inside fade to Hyatt, a go ball on the outside. Plays that he made all year, he didn't make in that big time game. LSU, backup quarterback comes in, and even Jaden, and Kayshawn had a great game as well, made plays down the field. Not saying that's all you can do and all you have to do in order to win the game versus Georgia. Obviously, for Ohio State, they got to figure out a way to slow down this offense. They got to figure out a way to be more physical at the line of scrimmage. Their defensive backs have to be better because AD's back, McConkey's playing well, Bowers, Washington, all that is going great for Georgia. I think Georgia's going to score points, but I think Ohio State has the personnel between CJ and Marvin Smith or Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jigba to really challenge the defensive backs to maybe win some of those 50-50 balls down the field. And then you and I both know this, the game is all about momentum. Can Ohio State create enough momentum type plays to get the energy on their sideline to keep this thing close at the end of the day? So yes, that is what worries me a little bit. If you can get 4 or 5 explosive 40-yard, 50-yard plays, could they keep this a ball game? And then at the end of the day, an elite team like that in the fourth quarter, it's a coin toss at that point.
Yeah, so I've heard a few people bring up the LSU game as kind of like, okay, can you have some, because LSU ends up throwing for a lot of yards, they put up 30 points, but to me that's a bit of a it's a bit of a red herring, false flag. I don't know. False flag feels a little like I'm going to get whatever. The point is that feels like not fully representative of what this defense actually is. Because
it's similar to JJ McCarthy in his game versus Ohio State. And you believed in that. I mean, you jumped on that bandwagon. he won Ohio State. So all of a sudden, this kid's good enough to win a national championship. That's what you believe, T-Bob. So
No,
obviously, in your opinion, Ohio, Georgia didn't play well defensively in the secondary versus LSU. So the
no,
secondary's not good.
no, no. You
That's
should
just the
let
way
me
you
finish
work.
my point.
That's the way you work, T-Bob.
I said it's not representative of Georgia because they were up 35-10 at halftime. They weren't playing the same defense as then. They were playing against City. Like, they're not motivated in the same ways. They had the game won.
Yeah.
The game was over the second they returned that freaking blocked field goal for a touchdown. Like, that's why I'm saying
the game
Georgia's
was over. The game was over is when you sent me that text message. That's when the game was over. You screwed LSU.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. For those who don't know what we're referencing, well, now I feel like I almost have to bring it up. We both had babies. They're babies of the opposite sex. I may have implied that my baby was going to have sex with his baby one day. And
yes, one day,
the football gods deemed
ago.
that a step too far, as immediately LSU crumbled. But again, the point is, Mr. Distraction, that no, JJ McCarthy did it when the game mattered most. Georgia's weaknesses on defense were only because they already had the game won. They didn't care. They could hang back. They could allow stuff underneath.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's really diving into the weeds.
Yes. Like when I look at Georgia, what you saw against Oregon, what you saw against Tennessee, that is more representative of the actual challenge that Ohio State's going to have to overcome. And I don't think they're going to be able to, because how do they need to do it? Like, Ohio State needs to be able to run the ball. If you look at the first half against Michigan, when they were doing very well, I want to say they outrushed them like 180-10, right? And it was allowing CJ Stroud. When you put that game purely on CJ Stroud, he looked lost and he kind of struggled to create. In Georgia, it's unbelievable that despite losing 5 first-rounders and 8 draft picks overall from that defense last year, that Georgia is still so talented that they should be able to put Ohio State in a similar bind. Like, I don't think Ohio State's going to be able to run the ball against Jalen Carter and company. And the trickle-down effect there is they're not going to be able to throw it either. CJ Stroud, maybe they have more success than Tennessee did and then Oregon did, but it's not going to be consistent success. They might pop off here or there, but I don't think they can hang for a full 4 quarters. And you're not even asking me to cover a full 7. Ooh. I like Georgia here, dude. Yes. I like Georgia because, again, in a lot of ways, like we'll probably end up talking about, I think Georgia is a slightly better version of Michigan. And I think that they'll be able to exploit Ohio State in the same and better ways. Yep. So, yeah, I feel bad. I don't see it. I think we're going to once again be talking about Ryan Day disappointing on the big stage.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's going to be the narrative, which is, I think, still BS, man. Like, if people act like it's so easy to win a national championship, there's only been a handful of coaches that have done it, and it's not easy to do. But you listen, that's the expectations that you put on yourself by being in a place like Ohio State. And, Kirby was in a similar position last year. And it was, hey, you lost SEC championship game. You're facing Alabama in a rematch in the Natty. If you don't win now, when are you going to ever win? I think that's kind of the mindset now for Ohio State fans is, hey, you've had opportunities. You haven't won. You have a top 5, top 10 pick of a quarterback. You have a first rounder receiver. You have all this talent. You brought in a defensive coordinator to fix that side of the football. If you can't win this year, then when will you win? So he is in a really interesting situation right now. I agree with that. I see the frustration, but I also, once again, we'll say this, like, what coach are you going to go get on the open market if you're Ohio State that you feel can do a better job than what Coach Day is doing right now? Let's take it down a notch. Let's just take a little bit of a breather.
And look, I want to be clear. When I talk about Ryan Day disappointing on the big stage, that is not saying you need to replace or you need to improve from Ryan Day. Like, when you look at when Ryan Day had arrived at Ohio State, that's when they actually went to the next level. Now, yes, to your point, Aaron, Urban Meyer's team managed to get it across the finish line. And ultimately, in American sports, American culture, that's kind of all we care about. And I can go on a whole show about how I disagree with a lot of that. But Ryan Day's teams are more consistent than Urban Meyer's teams were, especially in the offensive side of the ball. And so Ryan Day's fantastic. And it's not that you replace him or anything. Hell, look at Michigan sticking by Harbaugh. If anything, you double down and you give your guy a chance to kind of figure it out because the heights that he's occupied. I think the problem with Ryan Day is that all that can be true. and he can still have yet another disappointing loss on a major stage, right? Another close but no cigar. And a lot of times those guys end up finding a way of breaking through, and it will be all the better for it, for him personally, to have suffered on these stages and then go win the Natty. But I just don't think it's in the cards this year. I guess if I wanted to go out of my way to craft a plan for Ohio State, and Travion Henderson's hurt, right? I mean, he's not playing this
he's
game.
out.
Jackson Smith and Jigba's not playing in this game.
That was the big sigh of relief. Like when Jackson Smith and Jigba decided not to play in this game, and who knows the reasoning? Is he healthy? Is he not? I know there's been some talks behind the scenes of why he's not playing this game, but I think it was a big sigh of relief.
What do you mean?
Yeah, but you also have an opportunity. Like you can't tell me that you may have a little bit more faith in Ohio State if you had two of the best 3-4 receivers in America playing in this football game. Like that's
definitely.
Yeah, that's a big difference. So there was a major sigh of relief from all Georgia fans when they're like, hell yeah, let's go to the NFL, go get healthy, go start training, all that good stuff.
Yeah, because you Bulldog fans are soft, and the only way you win natties is if teams are down their best players. Just like Alabama last year.
You know what? You train harder, you stay healthy. It's a game of nutrition, T-Bob. If you're not on the field, you can't win games. Georgia's found a way to stay healthy. So screw you. All right. I do want to get into why
risk is risky. If you're not on the field, you can't win games.
If you're on the field, you're a bitch. All right. So why will Georgia have success on offense? I do want to get to that because we are, everyone is so focused on, you brought it up, the strengths and the strengths. Georgia's been the team that hasn't given up the most points in 5 years. Ohio State scored the most points in 5 years. But let's talk about Georgia's offense. Why does Georgia's offense and why will Georgia's offense have success? I talked about it a little bit yesterday. I'll go first here.
Okay.
Ohio State has struggled against the pass this year. Ohio State struggled the past 2 games they've played. First Maryland and Talia, and then first JJ McCarthy making him look like an all-conference. Yeah, he is good. I'm just saying, like they passed all over him. Ohio State and Michigan passed all over them. So Stetson and his confidence, the way he plays in big time moments, from the game versus Oregon to Tennessee to how he was lights out versus LSU in the SEC championship game. I think he's going to have an incredible football game. I think Stetson's going to have and I got a line coming out. He's going to be part of my best bets for FanDuel. We're going to put out here soon. I think he's going to go and have another MVP type game. Stetson, when the lights are brightest, takes his game to an entire new level. AD Mitchell's back. He got a little bit of his feet wet versus LSU. I think you're going to see him play in a big time way, similar to what he played last year in the playoff situation. McConkey's playing well. Washington's playing well. Bowers is playing well. You talk about offensive line yesterday for Michigan. Georgia is the number 2 offensive line in America. This is the most complete offense they're going to face this entire season. Georgia can run it. The running game has gotten better and better every week. They can throw the ball to high level. Stetson is playing the best football of his career. This is right now one of the best offenses in America. And you throw on top of that, one of the best defenses in America. I don't see it happening. I laid my money out on the table already earlier this week with you. I think Georgia covers. I think Georgia wins this game by double digits. I just think they're too good on both sides. Where Ohio State is weak is where Georgia is strong. And that is a big, big problem. Ohio State is weak in the run game. Georgia is tremendous stopping the run. Ohio State is really weak in stopping the pass. Georgia has proven that they can throw the ball at an elite level week in and week out. They're going to exploit those 2 things and really put Ohio State into a bind all Saturday night. So give me the dogs and give me the dogs big.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Georgia's offensive success, I'm pretty much just in agreement with you. I mean, the Stetson factor is a thing, but also, again, it all starts up front, Aaron Murray. Mm-hmm. And that Georgia offensive line is a separating factor here. And let's be honest, the Ohio State defense is better, but that's kind of only because they were awful last year. And this year they've made themselves into a middle of the pack Big Ten defense, which is respectable. And that's not my opinion. Like objectively, statistically, they rank middle of the pack.
It's a bad conference though. It's a bad offensive conference.
Bad offensive conference, but whatever. So whatever. But they're like they're a middle of the pack defense. Maybe even if you want to give them a little upper middle class, I'm fine with that. But the problem is, on top of Georgia's offensive line, it's just those tight ends, man. The mismatches created there, and then they have enough at the skill positions. But it is Bowers in Washington, and how do you D him up? And then Stetson can even get it done with his legs. Georgia just attacks you in too many different ways. They have the experience. They've been here before. I'm with you. I like both the favorites to cover, man. Yeah, I think Georgia rolls in this one as well, as Aaron holds up a tiny little 9.25 inch
Yeah,
horn
not as tiny
frog.
as your little horn frog. You're
Okay,
a
9 inches.
fraud. Don't be crawling back to me, T-Bob, when TCU wins the football game. I don't want to hear your
You
bitches
literally
moaning.
bailed on TCU every single week for the last like 5 weeks of the season. I don't know what sort of mental gymnastics you did to suddenly convince yourself they're going to show up and beat
Because I don't
Michigan.
believe in
after
Michigan.
you
That's why.
bailed on
I
them
don't
against
believe
Baylor. You
it's
bailed on
less.
them against
Yeah.
Kansas State. Like
I did.
every single pick down the stretch, you went against TCU, and now you go back. I don't understand it, dude. I love it though. All right, so we've done it, boys. We have previewed the playoff. We hope that you enjoyed this. You know, we love doing snaps every day. Please, you want to help us grow the show. Wherever you're listening to your podcast, please rate and review it. That helps push it out through the robots. Also on YouTube, the Volume Sports YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel. That too helps please the algorithmic gods. A massive thank you to our excellent team here with Pat Gunner, Paulie Walnuts, Ryan Brumley, Danny Cardenas, Papa Colin there at the Volume for giving us a chance, and FanDuel for bankroll everything. Shout out FanDuel. Promo code SNAPS if you're signing up. FanDuel promo code SNAPS. Ooh, college football bowl season. To me, it really kicked off last night. Very excited to watch this weekend's games, and be on the lookout tomorrow as we will be releasing a new episode of Best Bets. And I love my plays for this weekend. So we'll talk to you then. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow here on Snaps.